Hi, this is Jen Rottenberg, Head of Partnerships at Athleta, and this is One-on-One with ADC Partners.
Hi, this is Dave Elmy of ADC Partners. So I think it's safe to say that we've arrived at something of an inflection point for women's sports. I mean, think about it. NWSL games are selling out. The WNBA just turned 25. Happy birthday, WNBA. U.S. women's soccer recently secured pay equity with the men, and on and on. Women's sports are generating more attention and more revenue than ever before. And no brand is perhaps better positioned to take advantage of this momentum than women's sportswear brand Athleta. In this episode, we connect with Jen Rottenberg, Athleta's head of partnerships, to discuss the brand's approach to sports marketing. We dive into their partnerships with Simone, Biles, and Alison, Felix, and what makes them so impactful, why partnership depth is better than breadth, and what she's looking for in new opportunities. And if you listen to the end, we'll even find out how the Massachusetts native's Boston accent is holding up. Jen Rottenberg, you've done a ton of work on the property side in the past, right? Before on the partnership side, right? Because you were doing work with USA Water Polo, as we were just talking about with fan-controlled football. So Athleta's the first time you've been on the brand side. So I'm wondering if you can start off by talking a little bit about what that transition was like. What surprised you the most about that change in perspective?
The volume of inbound is overwhelming, which I definitely appreciate. But what I've been able to take with me from years of essentially being on the sales side is, I would say, actually a level of compassion.
Oh, yeah.
They always, all these studies about how, people generally want to be liked. And if you say no to people, they tend to not like you. So a lot of folks, when they're getting pitched things, have trouble saying no, thank you. And when you're the salesperson, the thing you want most is to just know where you stand. Is it a yes or a no? And frankly, if it's a no, that's fine. I can move on and pitch the next person. So one thing I try to do is, be really upfront with folks if it's just not an option, and not shy away from saying no, thank you. And also, even if things are taking longer than I would hope, which is something that I have learned here. You mentioned being on the property side, but also a number of my stops along the way have been at startups.
Yeah.
And they tend to move at the speed of lightning. And I have learned that, on the large brand side, things do not move quite at the speed of lightning. And so, I'm in conversations with folks that have reached out or that we've reached out to, and things don't move quite as quickly as either might hope. But I try to be clear if I think we're actually going to get somewhere.
And for those people who don't know, I mean, Athleta is part of the Gap. I mean, it's a big company, so you're fit into that. There's Old Navy, and there's Gap, and there's Banana Republic, and then there's Athleta. So this is pretty monolithic, and you just don't get to make decisions all by your lonesome and say, "Hey, that looks fantastic. Let's do that." I think it speaks to the challenges associated, or sort of the process, better word than challenges, about how decisions get made internally. This is a group effort, and there's a lot of people looking at how these partnerships work because they are so impactful on the brand, right? I mean, they are very visible. I also appreciate the fact, you said being on the sell side, a quick no is better than 1,000 maybes.
Yeah, I always feel that way because, it's you have to be respectful of someone else's time. And if I'm taking my time every 2 weeks to ping you again because you haven't told me yes or no, I'd rather just go on to the next person. But I also am patiently persistent. So I won't give up on you until you actually tell me no.
I am borrowing the phrase patiently persistent and going to be using that. This is also where you're really glad you have a spit screen on your microphone when you say patiently persistent.
Please do. Someone else called me that once quite a long time ago, and I liked it. So I
consider it stolen right here.
Yes,
early in the podcast too. So I'm like, God only knows what other things we're going to be able to come up with associated with that. So time and process and trying to make sure that you're addressing as many inbound requests as you possibly can, because you've been there, you've sat in that seat, you understand what it's like to be there, but and now to be the person who's on that side of the table who's making that. Now let's talk about the category in particular, because sportswear is incredibly competitive, right? You've got some huge, monolithic, entrenched brands that are constantly working and building partnerships and shaking all the noise in the marketplace, and spending so much against that. And then you also have all the upstarts that are coming in that you're guarding against, but you're certainly starting to have to look both sides from where you sit. Where do partnerships fit for Athleta and the overall marketing strategy, and how do they keep the brand competitive in your mind and for where things seem to be headed?
Sure. And I think we occupy a unique position in the space. I mean, our heritage is in performance, but
Mm.
as we've grown, we've moved ourselves into what we also refer to as performance lifestyle. So taking all of these technical innovations that we've come up with over time, and bringing them into products that are part of your everyday life,
Mm-hmm.
as well as your workout life. And so as well, we are a women focused brand. We are not a co-ed brand, and we are focused not only on women's apparel but overall women's well-being. Last summer we launched Athleta Well. It's our hub for proceeding in that direction, and we are taking it from online into the real world and into our store experience as well. So we definitely feel like, power of she, women supporting women, that we have a point of differentiation. And so the way that we really look at our partnerships, and we're pursuing kind of two types of partnerships. So
Okay.
the ones that folks have mostly heard of to date are our partnerships with individuals, and we really consider them, our voice in the world, to amplify our position and our brand values, and we are also looking at strategic alliances that are, with like-minded companies and organizations, that as well, are looking to support and empower women and girls and help them reach their limitless potential. So we approach all these partnerships in a more holistic way. How do they fit in and amplify across various areas of the business? How do they help us continue to raise awareness for ourselves and our brand values? And how do they take our brand values beyond Athleta and into the world?
We're going to talk a little bit about brand values and the importance of those and how the partnerships help bring those to life. But I wanted to key on something that you just said about, like you said, I think most people are familiar with the athlete partnerships with like Simone Biles, who you brought up earlier, and things like that. Being the voice in the world. And we talk about this a lot with the idea of partnerships, right? With advertising, you're just saying something. You're saying the thing that you want to be perceived at. But when you align with an individual who has their own established presence in a market or amongst a group of people, it does allow you to borrow their voice, to borrow their placement in a way that is just fundamentally different for the brand. Can you talk about that a little bit, that voice in the world that they bring to the table, and why that is so important for Athleta?
Sure. I mean, we definitely have been very strategic and circumspect to date in the individuals that we've partnered with. And we've, like I said, looked at it really in a holistic way. So not a transactional relationship, we
Mm-hmm.
pay you, you do this, but really how do we do things together that improve the lives of women and girls?
Yeah.
And so we start with Alison Felix, and we have worked with her on our childcare grants through our Power of She Fund, and that came completely organically and really, from her experience with her daughter Cami, and we realized it was something that was important and resonated, and that we could do something to support. So, it started with the grants heading into the Olympic Games, but this season Alison has been running her farewell season to raise more awareness for these issues, and so we were able to support it at the U.S. Championships, which was pretty exciting. And so it's about taking what's important to her, and thinking about what's important to our customers and to women overall, and how do we bring those together. And she also is now an entrepreneur. She launched her Seish brand, which it was announced fairly recently that we invested in. So really looking at it in a very holistic way, and leaning into her voice and what's important to her. And now we're doing the same thing with Simone. We launched earlier this year our first collaboration with her for our Athleta Girl line, to really try to support our girl customer, and have her, own her own confidence.
Yeah.
And we have our next capsule dropping with her. Let's see, I'm using like retail speak, like dropping with her. See, I've gotten into the
Hey,
brand
look at
side.
you, you're there
Yeah,
now.
I'm there. But we have our next collection coming June 26th, sorry, July 26th. And again, we're really leaning into this idea of, it's not just about the clothes, but it's about how can Simone support these girls on their journey, and help instill confidence in them. And so there are other elements to the launch, beyond the idea of there just being clothes for back to school.
Right.
There's information for moms on how to support their daughters going back to school, coming from Simone, from her personal experience. There's a bit of a surprise and delight that customers will find when they shop at our retail stores, coming directly from Simone,
Oh, very cool.
to support girls in getting ready for the new school year, and being excited about that. So again, taking her life experience and growing up, and how she wants to give back, and really helping her amplify that, and having her amplify our efforts as well.
It was interesting. I was reading about when Athleta and Simone Biles. Now, I realize Alison came first, but I want to talk about Simone for just a minute, because she was with Nike and left Nike. And I believe she said something to the effect of, I think Athleta stands for everything I stand for, right? There was this, you talk about synergy, or whatever, whatever word you want to put against it. I mean, it was very much like there was an emotional connection between what she felt and what she felt like Athleta was becoming, or spoke the same thing. I think the same thing could be true for Alison Felix. Well, she was also another Nike athlete, and there was the whole issue about Nike reducing payments for sponsored athletes for pregnancy related issues and things like that. Can you speak what it means, like for the brand, like those two athletes who are so vocal on things beyond just sport, right? The people who have literally looked at people and said, the whole shut up and dribble crowd, and kind of raised a digit towards them. I won't say which one, but I think everybody can kind of figure out, what does it mean like to have those who bring so much more to the table than just athletic performance? I think it speaks what you're trying to do with the brand, or what you've been talking about, right?
Yeah, and what it speaks to is our ethos, our idea that we're a women's brand, and we're about the whole woman, right? So
Mm-hmm.
how are we supporting her lifestyle, her well-being, um, helping her with her confidence, and making her way through the world, whatever she's trying to achieve, whatever potential she's trying to unlock, whether she's navigating issues of career or family, caregiving, finding personal space, all those sorts of things. uh, our partners are real women too, and they're
Right.
navigating real world issues, whether through their childhoods or in their real lives, and in their everyday current lives. And so we're, just really proud to have them kind of representative of who we are as a brand, and who our customers are as well. And obviously we've also partnered with Alicia Keys, who's pretty amazing herself, and very, very much, a fierce woman that also stands for, taking that step back, and caring for yourself. And those are the kinds of things that we want to talk to our customers about.
It's kind of interesting. It takes that idea of performance. I mean, because I think most people think of Athleta as a sportswear brand, but it's infusing that idea of performance to be looking at the entirety of what performance can possibly mean for your customers. Whether that's, yes, you want to be as physically capable as you can be in the chosen area in which you want to be physical in, but it's career, it's motherhood, it's all the other aspects of what people are trying to become and what performance can mean to them. And these athletes kind of really bring a lot of that to the table just by their, like Alison Felix, and talking about being an activist.
Mhm.
and coming right at it, which kind of brings up the next question, right? Because some of the creative around her really leans into that idea of activism,
Mhm.
of what she talks about. And I was looking at it, it says athlete, mother, and activist on some of the web content associated with what you have on there. And, when you go back to the early Michael Jordan days, right, when he was talking about, well, why don't you take more of a stand on something, Michael Jordan? It's the old chestnut, Republicans buy sneakers too. Um, as athletes become more comfortable with activism, does that, I mean, that positively impacts what you're looking for in a brand ambassador now? Is activism essential now to athletes who want to be partners? And maybe not even, that's a broader question than just Athleta. Do you feel like that's now something that's integral?
I don't, to be honest, I don't know that that activism in and of itself is
Mm-hmm.
a requisite. I think more it's athletes or any sort of individual that we might consider partnering with, um, basically owning their who they are and their beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
and not being afraid to stand up for themselves. I think that, to me, is sort of more what ties to what we're trying to get at, which is be empowered.
Mm-hmm.
So for someone, that could mean being a very proactive activist.
Yeah.
But for someone else,
Yeah.
it could mean something else entirely, and that's okay too. I think it's just more about like owning. I think it's more just about owning, your own power to believe in what you believe, and not be afraid to stand up for that, or speak up about it, which is okay also.
Right. We hear the word authenticity used
Mhm.
in this industry a lot, but I think what you're driving at is the heart of that, to be unafraid to speak your mind no matter what the potential consequences are. And someone like an Alison Felix really took a look at, I mean, she really stood up for what she believed in, and fortunately found a landing place at Athleta who valued that authenticity because you saw what it meant to the brand, and that's a unique concept because these are a lot of these athletes, particularly when we're talking about track and field. Partnerships are that's their bread and butter, right? Not too many people are making a living running track and field these days, and so the partners go. So taking that stand is a pretty dramatic opportunity for them and for the brand itself. So it really speaks to, and I'm getting the sense that these are the essential issues that you're dealing with on a day in day out basis.
Yeah, I mean, I think from my perspective, again, it's about, and as we look at, others that we might partner with next, it's really about, do they have a perspective? Do they have something that's important to them? Is there a way that they are trying to give back or to do more? And again, it doesn't necessarily have to manifest in a way that somebody might consider activism.
Yep.
Could be very quiet intention that is manifesting in ways that are not super public, but doing a lot of good at the same time. I think there's a lot of room for how that initiative can manifest in the world. But yeah, we're really looking at the potential partners for very holistically. Not,
Mm-hmm.
we don't just sit there and say how many social media followers do they have, or how many medals have they won. It's really more about who they are as a whole person, what's important to them. Do they believe in empowering their fellow women? And are they, on board with the ideas that we have of how we can come together and do that, tie in with our Power of She Fund, potentially support, initiatives that are important to them, as we ended up doing, with Alison and so forth. So I think we're looking at it in a much bigger picture way, as, we try to be circumspect about, who might be next on the list.
Yeah, right. If these are the people who are going to be, go back and use your phrase again, another one that I love. So many things that I'm stealing from you over the course of this conversation. Again, if they're going to be your voice in the world, and knowing how sacrosanct the brand is and what it is you're trying to build there, you have to be really careful about who you're partnering with. And I think that probably speaks to, you've certainly got the big three that you're working with very closely right now: Alison, Simone, and Alison Keys, right?
Oh, did you say Alison Keys?
I did say Alison Keys. I
You mean
did.
Alicia Keys?
Alicia Keys. Oh, so terrible. I can't. I'm not even going to edit that out because I deserve to be abused for that. but so athletes have clearly been the focus. Do you see things evolving? Do you see other opportunities for Athleta beyond just the individuals?
Oh, beyond individuals,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So yeah, we definitely have started to put in place some partnerships with, as I was alluding to, kind of like-minded brands,
Mm-hmm.
fellow B Corps, those that are focused on providing empowerment and resources to women that might be coming at it from obviously a different perspective than the apparel industry,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but um, but they have that same intent and are reaching, a similar sort of customer. So we're definitely, proceeding in that direction as well. And
Mm-hmm.
again, holistically, how do we fit together? How do the two companies or brands or organizations fit together, across different elements of the business? So, whether it is there's a impact or philanthropy element to it, whether there's a loyalty element to it, whether there is a product element to it, all different facets that we can look at as we explore, those that might be the best fit.
Your portfolio is not getting narrower; it's getting very broad. I mean,
Yes, my position is new here.
yeah.
Where they created it a year ago or so, and then I was hired into it with the intention that, or the belief that the partners we had signed to date were, we were excited about and felt like we were heading in the right direction with. And so, how do we take the learnings from those, expand on them, really do the most we can with those relationships? But how do we think about taking those learnings, and expanding it into more partnerships and more third party relationships?
Well, so let's talk about that for a little bit too, because, like you said, it's a new role, and partnerships are a relatively new part of Athleta's focus, right? A sort of a new part in how you're helping spread the message and what it means to be part of the Athleta brand and the brand family associated with that. What does success look like to both you and the brand as the whole? I mean, clearly the ultimate goal is, sending a message about who the brand is and what it stands for, ultimately to generate more sales amongst the target audiences and things like that. But what are some of the other measures that you're putting against your partnerships? What does success look like?
That's the billion-dollar question, right?
you're, you're right. Get an easy one in there before the end.
I mean, our top priority is to continue to expand awareness for Athleta and who we stand and what we stand for,
Hmm.
and really, make our voice heard, to women out there who might be prospective customers. So not only our apparel offerings, but again, what our brand values are. So we do a number of things to measure against that, to make sure that our message is continuing to get out there and grow further awareness, for the brand. So that is the number one priority. And then we have a number of other internal KPIs based on the partnership, and I'll probably leave that at that.
You're right, because I'm assuming they're fixed and sort of totally easy to understand, right? Imagine there is a little bit of shifting. I mean, how do you? So, I'm interested also because we do talk to a lot of people on the property side and the sales side too, and I'm interested in how does when you're evaluating what's a great way? What advice do you have? As someone who worked in sales yourself, right? And you've been on the other side of the table as we started off the conversation.
Yep.
Like, you mentioned that your inbound communication right now is what's your average for email a day, just out of curiosity?
Oh, like unsolicited inbound?
Yeah.
It's probably a couple dozen a day.
Couple dozen a day,
It's
just inbound
it's
requests, people saying,
constant.
"Hey, I've
It's
heard,"
constant.
and you get jerks with podcasts calling in doing the same time.
It's gonna be great after
It's
this.
unbelievable. Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
How do they, what's some of the things that a partner can do to raise to the top of all that volume? What do you look for? What do you see? What are some of the things that you think elevate someone when they're trying to reach out to Athleta to try to see if the property or whatever they're representing makes sense for you?
I think same things that I really tried to do when I was on that side was
Mm.
is research in terms of really understanding as much as I can about who we are. I can't tell you the number of inbound that come in asking if we want to like endorse a male athlete.
Seems
uh,
like a miss.
and I'm like, that guy seems great. We don't have any clothes that would work for him.
He seems terrific.
I don't know about that. But also, just understanding, our pillars around women supporting women, inclusion, sustainability, you know, um, uh, sustainability is a big one for
Right.
us, and actually is probably the most interesting in terms of how we get at that through
Hmm.
partnerships.
Yeah.
So doing some research and understanding like what are the pillars that kind of underpin who we are, what kind of product we sell, who our customer is. We've, another example, we've been getting a lot of inbound around, NIL. That's like the hot topic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our core customer is women 35 to 55, and the age group that generally would fit with, their daughter or niece, it's, our girl customer is 6 to 13. And so a heavy lean into the college athlete space is not a high priority for us. It's not where we're putting a lot of focus, and we
Right.
get a lot of inbound related to that. So, it's thinking about who is their customer, who are they trying to go after. So, can I even help them reach that? And I've found that, at least, when I was on the other side, I would sometimes see a commercial or something or see a brand had done a partnership, think, oh, I want to reach out to them and, see if there's something there. And then I do a little bit of research into them and realize, like, I will be wasting their time. Like, what I'm pitching does not fit with who it appears
Yeah.
to be that
Square
they're
peg,
trying
round
to.
hole.
Yeah. So I tried to not end up in that situation, and I feel like sometimes a little bit of editing on the outreach plan sometimes helps. But if you know who we are and understand who we are, and you feel like you have something that's a fit for that, then we're always happy to hear new ideas. And we do have a number of different ways. We obviously have our national partnerships that I lead, but we also partner on a more regional and local level through our stores and area marketing
Mm-hmm.
lead. And so sometimes there are opportunities that that are more local and make sense in that way, and there are sometimes more national or even international in scope that makes sense for our team to take a look at.
Fair to say that someone should come to you with the ability to quote unquote speak in Athleta before they make that initial outreach to you. They have to understand the rhythms, the language of the brand, what it is you're trying to accomplish.
That would be preferred.
That would be very, very good. Yes, come to me with some knowledge, not and don't pitch me any more male athletes. Your CEO, Mary Beth Lawton, said, we set out to completely rewrite the playbook for athlete sponsorships. You feel like you're doing that?
I'd say it's definitely an interesting challenge
Yeah.
because there are inherent building block elements in any partnership. They just kind of need to be there for
Mm-hmm.
it to to manifest through marketing.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that we are doing a really good job kind of thinking out of that box and trying to make these really about holistic support. I mean, I keep coming back to that word, but it really,
Yeah.
that's what it is. And also, I mean, you see how small the quote unquote roster is at the moment, and it's going to get bigger, but we really want to focus on the individual and how that partnership can really become something more than, and not worry about just accumulating a large roster that happens to be wearing our shirts.
Yeah. Yeah. Deep rather than broad.
Yeah. So I think those deeper, more focused relationships is where we're going to continue to play. And that allows us to really build a relationship behind the scenes that allows us to understand our partner, allows them to understand us, and allows it to become more holistic. How do we end up supporting girls? How do we end up supporting moms in need of childcare, maternal health benefits, things like that? How
Yeah.
do we end up supporting women in need of, personal self-care space? And how do we do those things? It's because we understand who our partners are, because we have the bandwidth to really take the time to get to know them and understand what that is. And if we're trying to build out a roster of 2,000 athletes and celebrities, like we're never going to be able to do that. It's gonna fall back into feeling a lot like what else is out there. No knocks on anyone else, but it's gonna kind of fall back into that.
But it speaks to that ability to look at the people you're working with and concentrate activity around them to really get into the depth of what that relationship can bring to the table. And because it sounds like you've got such a clear-eyed sense of what it is you're trying to accomplish, it allows you to focus on, what you're getting into, what those athletes and other things are bringing to the table to build your brand, to generate the sales, to reach the market. That kind of, again, we've used it a couple times, holistic approach. but that one's the one that's just allows you to be a mile deep rather than a mile wide. All right, so I want to finish up with sort of a big, broad question, just sort of about this moment in women's sports, right? Because women's professional soccer matches, they're selling out. The nationals team just got pay equity with the men. Men WNBA is celebrating its 25th year. It's it's a pretty remarkable moment. Feels like, or at least the wheel is really starting to spin for women's sports in a way that it struggled to do so previously. And as someone who's worked in women's sports for a long time and is currently working for obviously a company that's very interested in supporting women in those moments, I'm wondering if you just take a minute and reflect on this moment. Like, what does it mean to you, and what do you see, and what are your hopes for things as they go forward?
It's a really interesting time. I mean, I don't want to date myself, but I've been around for a while, and I was there with the U.S. Women's National Soccer team when they were playing in stadiums that held 5,000 people, and
Yeah.
and they would stay at the end of a match and sign autographs for all 5,000 people,
Yeah.
and those 5,000 people included boys and girls and dads and moms, and you could see the seeds being planted. And to be honest, I thought the fruits from those seeds would come sooner than 25 or
Right.
so
You have to tend
years
the garden
later.
pretty hard. Yeah.
But they really laid this groundwork. All the women athletes that kind of came before. And I mean, look, we're in a weird time right now in general in this country, and we just celebrated a major milestone of Title IX,
Yep.
and that has had a massive impact on the opportunities for girls to participate, which means that it has increased opportunities over time for girls to be able to excel.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think part of also what's gotten us to this moment is that the women that compete at an Olympic, national team, professional level are exceptional
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the performance. So the games are exciting, the quality of play is exciting, and they're driving TV viewership. To your point, they're driving in-person attendance, they're driving broad fan bases, and it's a pretty big deal for everybody that's been working all along the way. And I guess myself included, I'm just happy to have played a part or early on. And I was actually at a meeting of a number of amazing women a few weeks ago, and I said it's actually pretty cool at this point. When I started out, we were knocking our heads against the wall, right? We're trying to get resources. We're trying to get big brands to come and put their money behind, these women athletes and these sports. And now not only is it at this moment, but I'm now on the other side where I have not a lot, but I have some resources to actually further add fuel to the fire, so to speak. And that's actually very exciting for me. Is how do we take this momentum and just keep going?
Keep stoking the fire.
Yeah, I mean the ratings for WNBA, the ratings for NWSL, they're great. They're on par with a lot of men's sports, and that's super exciting. And so what we need is for the dollars to follow that, right? Like I think there are a lot of folks still out there in the industry in general and in marketing in general that have a perception of where women's sports is at, and so assume that the dollars need not follow because they assume they're significantly less in terms of media viewership, interest in the news stories, interest in the personalities, but they're not. A lot of it is there.
Mm-hmm.
And so not just myself and Athleta, putting dollars and effort and resources, behind, continuing to amplify, but I think it's a huge opportunity for other brands and media companies, especially, to invest more in, putting these games on larger networks and with broader reach and taking advantage of that and selling in the advertising dollars because the viewership is there. It's all super exciting. And again, I'm just kind of, I mean, I have some level of pride of, having been there sort of
Justifiably so.
Still sticking around.
Maybe the seeds didn't grow quite as fast as you maybe had hoped, but it sounds like it's something that you are definitely like able to take a lean back in the chair a little bit from your perspective and say, you know what? It's come a long way. Still ways to go, but
Yeah.
I mean, my goodness, it's exciting to see. Jen Rottenberg, thank you very much for joining me today. But before I let you go, we're going to do a quick lightning round.
All
These
right.
are questions that I have not forwarded to you at all. But I'm going to ask you to answer with as quickly as you can the first thing that comes to your mind. Are you ready?
Probably not.
Probably not. Okay, but we're going to go do it anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, ready to go.
Yeah.
All right. If I put the under/over on the number of requests I've gotten from my wife about getting Athleta gear from this interview at 5, would you take the under or the over?
Over.
Yeah, that's easy. All right. You're originally from Massachusetts, correct?
Correct.
All right. So in your best accent, please say Marky Mark likes to fish for shark in the dark near Gloucester.
Marky Mark likes to fish for shark in the dark near Gloucester.
That is outstanding.
Thank you.
All right. You're also a Boston sports fan. So greatest sports moment in the history of all sports?
Oh, but it doesn't have to be Boston specific, right?
Well, kind of,
yeah,
it does.
I'm a Boston fan. No.
All right.
Greatest moment is the U.S. women's soccer team victory at the Rose Bowl in 1999.
All right, 1990. We're just actually celebrating the Brandy Chastain moment the other day. It was all over. All right. Well, what's the best Boston sports moment then?
Red Sox first World Series.
Okay, very good. You were chief marketing officer for the fan-controlled football league, where fans get to call the team plays.
Yes.
Should Bill Belichick be concerned for his job?
No.
Okay. Last one. As a Princeton and Harvard graduate, please describe people who went to Yale in one word. You can't even muster the word.
I can't even. There's no word. There's no word.
Jen Rottenberg, thanks for spending time with us today, and good luck with everything.
Thanks, Dave. Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to this ADC Partners podcast. For more information about ADC Partners, please visit our website at adcpartners.com.